Today we're going to be talking about applying for promotion, and we're excited to have Dr. Nannette Glenn and Dr. Heather Rasmussen with us today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce them and then hand it off to them. Dr. Glenn has a PhD in general special education, and education is really second nature to her. After almost 30 years of working in higher ed, she's brought her passion for teaching and learning to Dallas, where she was named Dean of the College of Graduate and Professional Studies at ACU in January of 2021. Dr. Glenn earned her PhD again in general special education and her Master of Education in multicultural special education from the University of Texas at Austin, as well as a Master of Science in Education and Entrepreneurship from the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education and the Wharton School. Her hobbies, when I asked her what her hobbies were, she said antiquing, decorating, and creating arts and crafts projects. She also loves learning about the history of things and learning trivia. Finally, she also loves playing with her granddaughter, Ava, who I believe, if I'm right, Nannette, she's about 6 months. So she's just a beautiful little girl. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Heather Rasmussen. She's an associate professor of organizational leadership in the College of Graduate and Professional Studies and has been with ACU Online since 2017. She has a master's and PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Kansas. She completed a 2-year National Institutes of Health funded postdoctoral fellowship in cardiovascular behavioral medicine at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and Carnegie Mellon University. She's also a licensed psychologist in Kansas. Her research in health psychology and positive psychology has been published in peer-reviewed journals such as the Annals of Behavioral Medicine, Emotion, and the Journal of Personality, along with other publications. Now, I asked for a fun fact for Heather, and she said that she was a film major in undergrad. So for 2 weeks, she had lunch with Clint Eastwood because she was working on the film, The Bridges of Madison County. So glad to have her with us as well. And we're honored to have both of you. Just real quick instructions for everyone. If you would place your questions in the chat, we're going to try to pause every once in a while, and I'll ask questions based on what you put in the chat. I can't guarantee that I'll get to every question, but I'll do my best. And also at the end of our session today, I'll email out the recording as well as the slides that we're using today, because I know a lot of you may want to get some of these details down, but I'll email out the slides in an email to everyone as well. So today our plan is Dr. Glenn is going to share with us the process of applying for promotion, and as well as some tips and tricks on how you can use that information for applying for jobs or things here at ACU or other educational institutions. And then Dr. Rasmussen is going to share with us an example portfolio that she used when she prepared for a promotion. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Glenn, and let you start explaining the process for applying for promotion.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you all hear me? I do apologize. I'm in the airport and it may get a little noisy, but Dina has assured me that she will keep up with the questions if there are any, and we can go from there. I want to thank you for coming to this session, because this is a very important part of our process in terms of how we move from rank to rank within our disciplines. And it is a wonderful opportunity to be able to kind of be rewarded for our work. So while I am really going to be speaking about full-time faculty, any of you that are adjuncts considering full-time faculty positions, this is very, very good information for you as well. So again, when we apply for promotion, we're looking at well-deserved rewards for full-time faculty. And the focus at ACU is on teaching, scholarship, and service. And promotions can be sought at various points within your career that we'll go over in just a moment. And overall, it's an opportunity to showcase those talents and skills that you have in your disciplines in a meaningful way. So when we look at applying for promotion in the deadlines, I wanted to go over that first because it's very important, since these are pretty hard and fast deadlines. The intent to apply needs to be voiced at the time that you have your annual review. So if you're a faculty member, when you have your annual review with your program director, that is the time, or if you're a program director, then you would have at the annual review, if you're wanting to apply for promotion, then you would let me know that. And the reason we do that is because it kind of gives me an opportunity to know how many individuals are applying for promotion, and then we can get that information to the committees. So if you look at the due date of the application, it is due September 1st. If September 1st falls on a weekend or holiday, it will be the next business day following that September 1st. You will receive a decision in writing on October 15th. And then should you be awarded the promotion, then it will begin November 1st. And that would be with your, that comes with the little raise. And I'm not exactly sure what that amount is, but because I think it differs, um, I guess, from budget year to budget year, but we will definitely find that out for you. Our applications are reviewed by a committee that consists of program director, myself, the dean, and the provost. And so we review all of your information so that we can come to consensus about those who would be moving to that promotion status. When we think about the criteria for promotion, we have to kind of start at where we have our current rankings. And our current rankings that we have within the College of Graduate and Professional Studies or instructor, the instructor is generally someone who comes along and they do not have a terminal degree or doctorate degree, but they may be working towards that. Then we have the rank of assistant professor. This is the general entree into all universities in terms of the ranking, and it generally is reserved for those who have those terminal degrees. Then next is associate professor and then professor. So when we think about promotion from rank to rank, if we think about starting at the assistant professor, which is where we would begin, then we would be promoting to associate professor. You have to have 2 years of service at ACU Dallas for that. Then associate professor to professor is 6 years. So some of you may have years with ACU main campus, and that's fine. We just want to make sure that you have the years of service for the ACU system. And I know I did say Dallas, but the system. What do you need when you prepare for getting your materials together for promotion? Well, when we think about this, there are several questions that are used to kind of ground our thinking in that where we are self-assessing or reflecting upon our experiences and achievements. And we also provide concrete examples of some of those because it helps to give us an understanding and insight into what you are putting down as your information in answering your questions. So the questions we kind of think about are, what have been my professional accomplishments and how has my career been shaped by these accomplishments? And it is a good practice to, if you're not doing this right now, is to just kind of track those so that you're not missing anything. Everything in our discipline is pretty important. And so it's something that you want to make sure that you've reflected upon. Also, some of us have had struggles or challenges. And how have those struggles or challenges framed your career? What did you learn from that? How have you grown as a professor or as instructor in and through those challenges and struggles that you have had? It's very important to be able to kind of paint a picture about that, you know. So that's a question you need to ask also in your preparation. And then again, you should be keeping current in your discipline. So what changes have occurred in your discipline? that have shaped your goals. So, for example, standards have changed. If there has been new thinking that has changed, how has that impacted you? And then finally, what are some contributions that you have made to ACU Dallas? We want to think about, how those things are helping you to be able to shape what you're doing. And once you get all of this information aligned and you thought it out, and it's a good probably practice to write it out before you begin to prepare, that would be great. Again, in terms of preparation, here are some reflective questions about your teaching effectiveness that you may want to really center on. If you look at the areas right there in purple on the left, these are kind of maybe how you want to frame. You don't have to necessarily do it that way, but you can frame your thoughts and writings in that way as well. So some knowledge of subject matter. Do you know your subject matter? Have you kept current and relevant in your discipline? How do you communicate your enthusiasm to your students about your subject matter? So I have been in some classes and observed some faculty who are not excited about what they do. And we want to be able to know that you're excited, that you're able to kind of have your students live vicariously through you, and maybe some of the things that you have done, and maybe that's some of the things that they want to do. How have you self-reflected and reflected upon your improvement? What are you doing to improve your instruction and how you deliver it? I know that we are now, we're doing online instruction, and we have been since the opening of ACU Dallas in 2016. But are you giving attention to best practices in online instruction? What techniques and tricks or tips do you use or do you work with in terms of your faculty to be able to improve your instruction? And then finally, teaching as vocation. Are you expressing to your students how their work aligns with God's purpose and his work in this world? Do you see your own work as vocation, and how are you demonstrating that? Those are very, very good reflective questions when you talk about your teaching effectiveness. And then finally, the contents of the application. And it is going to be great when Heather goes over showing you example through hers. But these are the materials that are going to be submitted as a website at blogs.acu.edu. So you will have to put in your application PDF copies of your annual review since starting at ACU Dallas. And you can get those from the activity insights. And now it's called, they've changed the title of it. It's still the same, but it's called Faculty Success. So you can go in there and you can pull your annual applications. They're making sure that your program director has completed the information to respond to your information that you have put in about how you've kept up with everything. So if you need assistance with that, please reach out to your program director or reach out to Dina or myself, and we can help get those for you. You will also need an updated curriculum vitae. One of the things that is problematic that I have seen in application packets before is that people don't have an updated vitae. They may have things way back from 3 or 4 years ago, but nothing current. So make sure that it's current. You have all of your relevant information. Your personal contact information is current, and all of that. Then you will have a written reflection of your professional development since starting ACU Dallas. Our faculty handbook really requests the ACU Dallas, but it's also good to include other professional development activities that you have had in the past to show depth and breadth of your experiences. So if you could make sure that that is up to date and current as well, that would be great. My apologies for this noise. Then you need to have a written reflection of your approach to teaching effectiveness. And you can go back and follow those 4 areas on the previous slide that can kind of guide your written reflection. Also, you need to document any scholarly activity that you have had. Excuse me. A lot of us have used research studies that we have engaged in, but I have also included Boyer's models here of scholarship. And these 4 areas are really good because when you're a teaching institution like we are, um, it is very difficult sometimes if you're not engaged in research so that you can say, how can I show scholarship in other areas? So you have scholarship of discovery, basically, which is looking at research, yes, that you have done, but maybe you've assisted in writing book chapters, or you've done some sort of creative activity such as a performance, or you've submitted things to peer-reviewed journals or white papers or working papers. Those are all forms of scholarship of discovery. Scholarship of integration. I love to see presentations of research at conferences or lit reviews, or if you've done workshops in consultation with school districts or other organizations, and also non-academic publications that maybe discipline specific, but they're addressing concerns maybe within a community. So those are all scholarship of integration, scholarship of application. If you are consulting with school districts, as I said before, or with other organizations, you're working on developing some sort of center study or service. You write for a local magazine or newspaper, or even maybe you do podcasts, those types of things where you're applying your discipline. Those are areas of scholarship of application. And then teaching, of course. Here we're talking about publication of teaching materials, instructional materials, innovative materials of strategies that you've developed. And even the course revisions that we do, the substantial course revisions, or scholarship of teaching that you could also include. And then the final thing is you have to have documentation of service to the university. So that may be committee work that you do, any of those types of things. If you're serving on task forces, those are also something that you could put down. Your church, if you're teaching Bible studies, if you're working with small groups, or you're leading different initiatives at your church, that is a form of service as well. And then in the community, are you working with nonprofit organizations or anything of that nature? These are the items that will be included in your application. And now Heather is going to show us a little bit of what she has done. And before we go on, are there any questions anyone has?
I do have one question that came across the chat, Dr. Glenn, and if anyone else has a question, feel free to chat that question as well. But one of the questions that Kippy had, she was wondering if to be professor, if it had to be 6 years of service required, that it has to be after you were promoted to associate 6 years after, or just 6 years total at ACU Dallas?
You know, that's a good question, Kippy. I will find out for you, because I think it may have to be 6 years, because I know going from assistant to associate, we have to have that time. If you were already an associate, it could be that that you would be able to, go on to the professorate at 6 years. So let me find that out. I'd have to check with the provost to determine that.
Okay. Anybody else have
question.
some questions? I'm just impressed that Dr. Glenn's doing this in an airport and can concentrate well enough to do this.
It's very hard. People are dropping things and
oh no,
screaming, but it's okay.
Crying babies. Anybody else have a question? All right, I think what Dr. Rasmussen will be sharing with us will probably answer a lot of people's questions. So Heather, we're going to tag you next. And go from here.
Okay, well, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Glenn, for adding all of that information. That's a lot more information than when I went through the promotion process. Dr. Glenn was not here. And of course, the process for applying was a bit more fuzzy because, of course, ACU Dallas was newer and everyone was trying to figure out procedures for Dallas versus what's happening on the Abilene campus. So I leaned a lot on Brian Cole because he had gone through the process before I did. So we were just kind of shooting in the dark, if you will, trying to figure this out. So the first thing that I did, though, was I contacted the help desk here, which is helpdesk@acu.edu, to let them know that I needed a WordPress promotion portfolio. And so they set it up pretty quickly, and they will then send you the information of how to get to your blog portfolio and that kind of thing. And ACU does have that website with information that might be helpful to you. And that is where Dina is going to right now. It's the blogs.acu.edu promotion portfolio. And just know when you look at this website, remind yourself, this is also from the Abilene campus. So there's going to be a lot of stuff on here about tenure, which won't apply to us. So just take what, the nuggets you think apply to you and leave the rest. But this kind of gives you the steps of how to go through this, because there are some similarities. Everybody has to do the sample portfolio on WordPress, for example. But this page also includes some sample portfolios. And again, these are going to be tenure track folks on the Abilene campus, but you can just see how they set things up and what images they included and what information they included. So it's helpful in that way to kind of see just how people set things up. Now they have these video tutorials for WordPress, which they didn't have when I applied. So that's wonderful, because one of the trickiest parts I feel like of this process is learning how to use WordPress and get all of your information into WordPress so it looks nice. So I would recommend taking some time and looking at this page, but also going through those videos, because to me, that was one of the more time-consuming parts of this process. Was me trying to figure out how to tweak things within the WordPress blog to make it look okay. And once you get everything up in your blog the way you want it, then it tells you how to make your blog visible so that your committee can go in and look through all of that information for your promotion. So for my portfolio, just as you look through it, just remember that Dr. Glenn gave you a lot of good information that may differ from what I have on mine. But the first page I did was an overview page. And basically that was my letter to the promotion committee with just an overview of highlights of things that they were going to see. Of course, I included some images, and I included some embedded links to publications and presentations that I had done. So again, just kind of an overview of what the promotion committee will see. And then, as Dr. Glenn mentioned, you want to make sure you have your CV updated. What I did is included a downloadable PDF and also just copied and pasted all, I don't know, however many pages I had of a CV. And this, I will say, was one of the trickier parts, because of course, if you're trying to take it from a Word document or PDF and putting it in this blogs, all of the formatting gets a little crazy, or it did when I did it. Maybe WordPress is better, but just leave yourself time to do that. And then, like Dr. Glenn mentioned, the annual reviews, and I just pulled stuff from Activity Insight. And I included some direct quotes of some things. I just pulled those out and put that in the blog, and then put a link into an annual review summary from Activity Insight. So pretty straightforward. Teaching effectiveness. This part, you'll have a lot more information from Dr. Glenn, but this part for me, I just included some narrative there, but also some sample audio feedback I had given to a student, a sample video lecture. I pulled out some quotes from students from emails and included those, and also some quotes from some course evaluations that I included. And then at the bottom, of course, I put the PDFs of some course evaluations in there as well. And kind of a list of courses I had taught by that point. So scholarship, Dr. Glenn gave you a good roadmap of what you should include for scholarship. And mine was just focused on research because that's all I knew at that point as far as scholarship. I thought that's what they were looking for. But again, I embedded links to publications that I have, to I think some presentation that KK O'Byrne and I did. So that's kind of what I did for scholarship. And then service, on this one, I listed the student dissertation committees I had been on up to that point, other committee service that I had done for the university, as well as service that I had done for the profession and the community. And again, I embedded links if, for example, the committee's like, what is Douglas County CASA, or what's the National Charity League, or those others, so they can click and directly go to those websites and learn a little bit more about those. And then finally, on professional development, this was just a narrative reflection. And again, Dr. Glenn gave you some good questions that you can use to think about your reflection of your teaching and your time at ACU. But what I would say as far as tips and tricks, as Dr. Glenn mentioned, I would start gathering PDFs of your any presentations, publications, any of the teaching information, links, and just start putting all of that stuff into like a digital portfolio if you don't already have one. Some of you probably do because you're on top of things. And then also, what images do you want on your blog, that kind of thing. And just make sure that if podcasts, like Dr. Glenn mentioned, but just make sure that you're gathering those things and leave yourself time to learn WordPress if you've not done it before, because it's not as user-friendly as a lot of things are, or as intuitive. And so my husband does some web design, and he had to actually help me get some of it to work right. So hopefully it won't be cranky like it was for me, but that's kind of what I did.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Heather. Dr. Glenn, I'm going to transition to you real quick. What would you, when you're looking at Heather's portfolio, what are some things that you thought she did well that you would love to see others replicate?
I think the examples of her information are very, very good. When you think about what you're doing, if you can have topical areas that the committee could click on to see additional examples, you may not need to put them all within the context of what is written, but the links to get to those would be very, very, very helpful. I think the format with the color, it's personalizing this. It's showing her interest in, I'm proud of what I do, and I'm proud of who I am. And that's always very, very appealing to a committee member. No one wants to just read narrative. That is not appealing at all. And it's like, okay, let me just get through this or whatever. But I think it's very clear, it's very organized, and helpful for one to move from subject to subject.
Wonderful. We did have a couple of questions that came up in the chat. One of the things that Jackie asked, are there any differences in the portfolio requirements for full professor, right, compared to the other levels?
Did you say for a full professor?
Yes, ma'am, for full professor.
No, they're not, just the same type of information, but I think if you are seeking full professorate promotion, you would really, really want to have a great depth and breadth of experiences identified. Um, Something I would expect more from one who is applying at that level than for one who is going uh, from assistant to associate.
Great. And Dana did ask in the chat if everyone would be able to see your example portfolio, Heather. I think if we share that link in the PowerPoint slides, everybody should be able to see it. So after our presentation today, I'll email out these PowerPoint slides that have a link to Heather's example portfolio and also all of the information Dr. Glenn shared. KK asked, Heather, is there anything you wish you would have done differently? And maybe what was the most challenging part of the process?
KK, as I mentioned, to me, the challenging part was really kind of trying to figure out what to put on there. But I think now Dr. Glenn has given a lot of good information. I was just thinking, gosh, I could print out what she said and almost create like once a year, like, what have I done in these categories? Kind of, when I'm doing my activity insight, like, what could I do differently this year? What could I try to do? So I think that would be helpful. And then, of course, like I mentioned, WordPress was a little bit more cranky than I thought it should be.
So what you're saying, Heather, is maybe we should start it farther in advance than we think because WordPress is a little clunky.
Yeah.
At least we have the training videos now. What's great about this, what Heather's provided for us is she's provided us the link to the website that has the WordPress training videos and has instructions on doing your portfolio, and then the link to her as an example. KK also had a question for you, Dr. Glenn. She asked, is she understanding correctly that curriculum development is considered a part of scholarship? Oh, looks like Dr. Glenn is frozen. It's my understanding, KK, that yes, that's right. Considering the Boyer's method, and that was in our old faculty handbook, was that curriculum development, like writing the courses, that would be considered as part of scholarship. But you could probably also send if you're really worried about it, you could probably send her a message and she could clarify for you. But that's my understanding. KK did have a question if there was a limit to the number of faculty who could be promoted every year, but I think we've lost Dr. Glenn, so maybe not. Oh yeah, everything's a little cranky today, everybody getting snow. All right, so I'm going to stop the share here and let me see what time it is. One of the things that we thought we would do is take other questions. If anybody had another question that maybe we can answer, or since we've lost Dr. Glenn, there she is. Great. Hi, Dr. Glenn, can you hear us?
Yes, I can now. I lost my connection.
We had a question if there was a limit to the number of people who could be promoted yearly.
No, there's not been anything expressed to me in that way. I would love for as many people to go through that process as possible because it really shows that people are interested in seeking that additional rank. It shows scholarship and activity. And I think it would, sorry, that's the trash people. It would just be an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we have a number of faculty who are progressing toward that mark.
Great. Well, any other questions from anyone? And y'all are welcome to unmute and ask them yourselves if you would like. Okay, well, tell you what, one of the things we thought we would do next is go to breakout rooms. And in the breakout rooms, you can certainly introduce yourselves to each other because we have some people here that are adjuncts that we may not know each other. So we'll have about 4 people in each breakout room. But then I'm going to also chat you a question. In the breakout room, if you could also discuss what are some areas that you probably need to work on. when it comes to applying for promotion. Like when I look at think of my own things that I might need to develop, I'm like, I probably need to kind of get together a list of scholarship things and what qualifies and see what I need to improve in that area. So I'm going to just put y'all in breakout rooms for probably 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and see if y'all have any other questions. So I'll just do that really quick. We're going to have, let's see, 3. Oh, everybody's leaving me. I see what people's feelings are about breakout rooms. All right, so we'll try this and get to know each other, and then share what you think you probably need to work on and improve the next year or month or months to apply for promotion. So here we go. We'll see if this works. All right. Thank y'all for everyone joining us today and coming in out of the breakout rooms. Y'all are the warriors. You stuck through us in the breakout rooms where you actually had to talk to people. So I'm so proud of you. Let me see if we have everybody back. I think all of our breakout rooms are closed now. Just for the rest of you, that we are having our April event with Dr. Jackie Halstead, attending to burnout. We'd love for y'all to join us. Jackie is just one of these angels on earth, and I think you'll really enjoy it. But thank you for coming today. Do you have any questions that you want to ask Dr. Glenn or Heather to wrap up, or anything that, sorry, Jackie, I called you an angel on earth. I hope I didn't embarrass you. But anyone have any questions to wrap up or ask Heather or Dr. Glenn while we have them available? You can unmute and ask or put it in the chat, whatever you would like to do.
Dr. Counts, this is Ann Lucetti. I just want to say thank you for that breakout room. That was a wonderful surprise. And thank you for Dr. Glenn for her insight.
Good.
Problem. My pleasure.
Ann is, by the way, Ann is one of my adjuncts, and she's a superstar. So I'm so glad that was a blessing to you, Ann.
Awesome. Awesome.
Anyone else have a question? Well, after this, I'm going to email out, once I get the recording, I'm going to email the recording out and the PowerPoint slides so you have access to it. But I know that Dr. Glenn, myself, and Dr. Rasmussen will be happy to answer any questions you have or any things that just pop up that you think about after this. But thank y'all for staying through the breakout rooms. Thank you for being here today, and appreciate Dr. Glenn and Dr. Rasmussen blessing us with their wisdom. Y'all have a good day.
Problem. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, everyone.